The 4 ways I upended my life basically involves spilling the tea on my dating life, since those are the times I most radically changed my life. But I'm gonna be totally transparent here, and you can decide if the lessons I learned along the way are helpful for you. All right, let's dive in. I've been having a lot of fun lately making videos that bring you along for the ride, so be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. If you know something needs to change in your life, whether it's your career, a relationship, where you live, your friend group, how you eat, your health, whatever, it is your subconscious and your body talking to you with a whisper. And as time goes on, if we don't learn to listen to that whisper, it gets louder and louder until pretty quick you're inside a house that has a gas leak explosion before your hard head gets the memo to move on. Maybe you have not been nearly blown up by your ex's house. I got a video on that. You probably have dealt with a few blows when it comes to your health. And so if you're not listening to that wise voice inside you, you'll experience that. The number one challenge we face when we're in a period of life upheaval is holding onto the past so tightly that it doesn't allow us to step into our future. We hosted a grant writing consultant retreat for our members that have made at least 100K in revenue last month, and one member would introduce herself as celebrating her divorce was finalized. I'd met her 9 months earlier in real life when I was in the town and we did a unicorn meetup, and she introduced herself in the same way. During her hot seat, when we workshop what's holding your business and life back, we helped surface that issue that she was letting that life event define her. And in doing so, it created a lot of confusion and tension for those around her, which was impacting her ability to close new clients. In a raw, vulnerable moment, tears were shed as she chose to not let the horrible things that happened to her define her identity. And it doesn't mean that the pain of the past is minimized or it's forgotten, but it doesn't have to be the spotlight anymore either. These are not in any order, by the way, but my second major upending in my life was when I decided to leave my corporate job to work for myself. I was 27. I was having these super violent and stressful dreams. I was itching to do something else that felt like it would really make a difference. And so I dropped to part-time hours as a grant consultant and started taking this online coding course to pursue my idea. I had not planned on leaving corporate when I did. My plan was basically to build a new business as a side hustle first. But when I went to go meet my supervisor for my annual review, I was stopped by the health and safety lady who was always hackling me for leaving my clothes out in the locker room. I was one of 2 women that biked or skied to work. Yes, skied. Okay, I literally skied from my house to the office, which if that is not the most Alaskan thing you've ever heard, I don't know what is. She would take new clients on an office tour, and so she wasn't happy that my clothes were drying on the hooks. And the locker, mind you, had no slits, so like the clothing left inside would stay wet and be horribly cold to bike or ski home in. So anyway, in that moment, it was just like, that was the moment I cracked. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I don't need this kind of energy in my life. I'm tired of getting bullied by this woman and I'm done. So I literally turned into my boss's office and I shared I would be leaving, which didn't go over well. And then they flew up one of the vice presidents from Seattle to talk me out of it. She sat me in this fishbowl conference room, right? You know, the ones with glass windows so like everybody can see inside. And I will never forget when she said, basically, you aren't taking responsibility for your career, literally pointing. And I said, quite the opposite. I am taking radical responsibility. I'm taking matters into my own hands. I'm going to make more money and I'm not going to get burned out. And I had presented to them for months with a plan on how they could help me as I'd grown grant writing services as a business line within the company to over 40 people. And I was drowning in work and requests for help. Mind you, I was 27. I was brought to tears in that fishbowl. And of course, all my coworkers kept getting unnecessary coffee refills in the company kitchen to watch what was going down. The VP said, I'm going to come back tomorrow and you can name any job you want and how much money you want to make and it's yours. And I stood my ground and I said, too little, too late. I appreciate that, but I'm done. And so come January 1st, 2018, I was done as a corporate grant writer and brainstorming names for my new business, which I formed on January 2nd. The name is Seneca Works. So the takeaway here is that you can take from that story, honestly, whatever you want. But what I can share is that trying to have certainty on your timeline, it's a complete waste of energy. So take Cindy here, for example, who decided to take an early retirement, leaving the stability of a corporate career to immerse herself in her new grant writing consulting business. Third way I upended my life was during the pandemic. I mean, weren't we all? Except I didn't get sent home, right? I didn't learn how to make sourdough bread. I entered the busiest time of my life and I had just launched my original grant writing course a few months prior and had about 150 students. And then when the CARES Act started flowing money, I was getting inundated with requests for grant consulting, which I had stopped doing for about 6 months so I could focus on the course. Now, I knew I would be a fool not to spin up an agency of 6 to 7 grant writers, so that's what I did. Most were brand new to my program. I hired Alex, that new girl in my town that had project management prowess, and boom. Y'all, that period was insane. I was hanging on with a thread, running 2 businesses basically. And when I get overwhelmed, my coping mechanism is to go to the mountains. So I ended up taking my first bike packing trip, which is basically when you bike and you camp. And I went to this remote national park. I'll link up the blog post I wrote about it and you can hear all about it. But basically I brought this gun for bear protection that I actually had no idea how to shoot. And then I was camping under a picnic table because I forgot to fly to my tent and it was raining and cold. Like, it was a whole thing. But anyway, so the Grant Writing Collective exists today because of that moment in time. We truly fine-tuned what I had been doing as a solo grant writer, and it turned it into a replicable business model for you to also make $250,000 plus per year in revenue. So the fourth way I upended my life was when I split up with that guy from Valdez that I mentioned earlier. But what I didn't share is that we were in Boston, Massachusetts at the time, so he could get his MBA. You don't have to be a geography major to know that Boston is a long way from Alaska. So when I ripped that heartache Band-Aid off, I walked 2 blocks to the car dealership and leased a car. And that was a big wake-up call moment for me because I realized that the only reason I could make such a bold and swift move to change my life circumstances was because I had built financial security. I had the money to walk right in and lease that car and leave. As I drove across the country, I stopped in Wyoming for a few months to be with my family. You know, I grew up on a cattle ranch, and my little sister was online dating at the time, and she was showing off all these Colorado boys, which was prompting me to show her what Alaska has to offer. So I created a profile on Hinge real quick, and it's like big salmon and huskies and hiking and super cubs. Those are plains, by the way, not bears, all things Alaska. Then this guy's profile came up, and I tell him that I'm trying to get excited to make this long drive from Wyoming to Alaska, and without hesitation, he says, I can help you make the drive. And that is how I ended up on a 4-day blind date road trip with the stranger that became my husband. If you want the whole love story, let me know in the comments. And if there's enough interest, maybe I'll make a quick video about it. It's a pretty good story. So the key takeaway is that this was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Now, not in the way you're thinking, but because it was the first time I had started to believe that I don't have to work hard for everything in my life. Tobias came to me with ease. I have since been able to bring things into my life that I want or need in a way that almost feels effortless. This has been a really big mental mindset shift for me, and one that I want to offer you as well. Can you retire the belief that you have to work hard for everything? And I know that's hard. I was raised as a rancher. Ready for a bonus upheaval? This one is basically actively happening right now. Long as Canada will have me, I am looking to move there for 6 to 8, 9 months, starting in the fall, to work with these AI grant writing engineers that we've collaborated with to build our own AI grant writing software. I believe in proximity to build momentum, and a core value of mine is adventure. Now, to make this happen involves a lot of really bold moves, like basically tying up all of our cash to be able to buy a hangar for Tobias's airplane, selling his hangar house, like just so much stuff you don't even want to know. And Tobias now has this really long commute to and from work, right, to get back to Alaska. So there's a lot of challenges. But the challenge that we are overcoming, that you will have to as well, is maintaining courage. So it's scary for me to tie up all my money. It's scary for him to sell his dream house. It's scary to move with a baby to Canada with no support system in place and build it from scratch. And what brings us back to ourselves is having clear vision for our lives and reminding ourselves to have courage and trust as we do things that we have never done before in pursuit of a life beyond our wildest dreams. If you are getting ready to upend your life, remember, courage is the ingredient that will pull you through to the other side. No pressure, no diamonds. If you are considering a career pivot into grant writing and that is your source of anguish, I want you to reach out to me directly. Let's talk through your next moves. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can go to the company account at Learn Grant Writing, find my personal page. I don't care. It's at Meredith.Noble, and let's be bold together. This video was a little bit different than usual, but if you liked it, hit the like and let me know in the comments your thoughts because I do read all of those. All right, see ya.